What would you do if you showed up to a blind date already planning your escape, and then realized that walking away might cost you the one thing you didn't even know you were missing? Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. We love you to subscribe our channel for more interesting single dad stories. Owen Parker sat in his pickup truck outside Northridge Grill, the engine humming softly beneath him, heat blasting even though his hands were ice cold. The dashboard clock glowed 6:45 p.m., each second ticking by like it was counting down to something he wasn't ready for. Outside, snow drifted down in thick, lazy flakes, the kind that made everything look peaceful and cinematic. Christmas lights wrapped around nearby trees, blinking in red and gold, mocking him with their cheer. "Yeah, this was a dumb idea," Owen muttered under his breath. He leaned his forehead against the steering wheel and closed his eyes. He could still turn around, still drive home, still tell Travis, his so-called best friend, that he got sick or stuck at work or literally anything that didn't involve admitting the truth. He was scared. His phone buzzed. "Travis. You're there, aren't you? Don't lie." Owen sighed and unlocked his phone. "Owen, I'm sitting in the parking lot questioning all my life choices." Three dots appeared immediately. "Travis, bro, go inside." Easy for Travis to say. Travis hadn't buried his wife 4 years ago. Travis didn't wake up every December with a knot in his chest, so tight it felt like breathing through glass. Travis didn't have an 8-year-old daughter who pretended not to notice when her dad went quiet around Christmas. Another buzz. "Travis, you promised Maddie." That one hit harder. Maddie. That morning, she'd wrapped her small arms around his waist before school and said, "Dad, just try okay. Santa says people can be happy again." She'd smiled so hopefully, it almost broke him in half. An 8-year-old shouldn't have to worry about whether her dad would ever smile for real again. 4 years ago, 3 days before Christmas, Owen's wife, Claire, died on black ice while rushing to grab last-minute presents. One minute she was alive, teasing him about forgetting the wrapping paper. The next minute his entire world was gone. Since then, Christmas wasn't joy, it was endurance. Decorations went up, gifts got wrapped, smiles were faked, and when Maddie fell asleep, Owen fell apart. His phone buzzed again. "Travis. If you bail, I'm telling Maddie you were scared of a steakhouse." Owen snorted despite himself. "That's dirty, man," he muttered. He straightened up, stared at his reflection in the rearview mirror, dark circles under his eyes. Tie crooked because he never wore ties anymore. He looked like a guy who had no business being on a blind date, but he also looked like a guy who'd promised his daughter. "All right," he said quietly. "One drink." That's it. He shut off the engine and stepped into the cold. Snow crunched under his boots as he walked toward the entrance. Each step felt heavier than the last, like he was crossing some invisible line he'd avoided for years. Inside, the restaurant was aggressively festive. Garland draped over every surface. Christmas music played just loud enough to be annoying. Couples laughed, leaned close, shared plates like the world hadn't ever fallen apart. Owen slid onto a bar stool. The hostess smiled politely. "Your date hasn't arrived yet." Of course she hadn't. He ordered a beer he didn't want and checked the time again. 7:05. His leg bounced nervously as he tried not to stare at the door. Then, at 7:18, the door opened. A woman stepped inside, brushing snow from her coat, looking around like she was bracing herself. She caught Owen's eye and smiled. Not a fake smile, a nervous, genuine one. She walked straight toward him. "Are you Owen?" she asked. His heart jumped. "Yeah," he said. "Autumn?" She laughed softly. "Close enough." She sat down beside him. And without knowing it, Owen took the first step into a night that would change everything. But what he didn't know yet was this. The woman warming his frozen heart wasn't even supposed to be his date. Have you ever met someone who felt so right that you ignored every sign screaming something was off? Owen didn't notice time passing once the woman sat beside him. It was like the noise of the restaurant faded into the background, like someone had turned the volume down on the world. She smelled faintly like vanilla and winter air, and she had this calm energy that made his shoulders loosen without him realizing they'd been tense. "So," she said, resting her elbow on the bar, "blind dates. On a scale from 1 to absolutely terrible, how nervous are you right now?" Owen let out a quiet laugh. "Somewhere between mild panic and why did I agree to this?" She grinned. "Good, same." That simple honesty broke something open. They started talking, really talking. Not the fake, surface-level stuff people usually do on first dates. She told him about juggling too many responsibilities at work, about how December turned everyone into either angels or absolute nightmares. Owen found himself opening up in ways he hadn't planned. He told her about Maddie, about how his daughter still believed in Santa with a level of commitment that bordered on impressive. "She writes letters like Santa's running a customer service department," he said. "Last year she asked him to make sure I laughed more." The woman's smile softened. "Kids see everything," she said quietly. Owen nodded. "Yeah, that's the problem." A pause settled between them, not awkward, just heavy. She studied him for a moment like she was deciding something. "Can I ask you something kind of personal?" she said. He hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, what happened to your wife?" The question hit him square in the chest, but the way she asked it, steady, respectful, kept it from knocking the wind out of him. "She died," Owen said. "Car accident 4 years ago. Right before Christmas." Instead of immediately apologizing or changing the subject, she stayed quiet. Let the silence exist. That alone made him feel seen. "That explains a lot," she said gently. "I'm really sorry." Owen stared into his glass. "Christmas hasn't been the same since. I show up for my kid, but yeah, I fake it." She reached out, barely touching his hand. "Faking it still counts sometimes," she said. "Especially when you're doing it for someone you love." Something inside him shifted. No one had ever said that to him before. They talked about grief, about how holidays have a way of ripping old wounds back open. Owen admitted he felt guilty just sitting there, like he was betraying a woman who wasn't even alive anymore. "Loving someone new doesn't erase the old love," she said. "It just means your heart survived." That almost made him cry right there at the bar. Just then her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her expression changed instantly from calm to stressed. "Shoot," she muttered, standing up. "I'm really sorry. There's an issue in the kitchen I have to deal with. Like now." Owen blinked. "Oh, yeah, no, that's fine." She scribbled her number on a napkin, slid it toward him. "I don't want this to end like this," she said. "Text me, okay?" Before he could respond, she was already gone, weaving through tables toward the back. Owen sat there stunned, staring at the napkin like it might disappear. For the first time in years, his chest felt light, hopeful. Dangerous, he pulled out his phone. "Owen, you were right. Travis, I'm always right. Did she show?" "Owen, yeah, and she's amazing." "Travis, amazing how?" "Owen, like, I almost forgot to be sad." There was a long pause, then Travis replied. "Travis, wait. Is she still there?" "Owen, she stepped away for work." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Travis, work." Owen frowned. "Travis, dude, Autumn's a nurse. She's off tonight." Owen's stomach dropped so fast it felt like the floor disappeared beneath him. Slowly, he looked up. Across the room, the woman he'd been talking to stood near the kitchen doors, now clearly visible in a manager's jacket, laughing with the staff like she owned the place. "Oh no," Owen whispered. Heat flooded his face. His heart pounded. He'd poured his soul out to the wrong woman. Confessed things he hadn't said out loud in years. He grabbed his jacket, ready to vanish. That's when the front door burst open. and the woman who walked in looked like she'd fought a blizzard just to get there. What kind of person walks through a snowstorm for a blind date they could have easily canceled? The front door slammed open so hard it rattled the glass, and a blast of freezing air tore through the restaurant like a living thing. Conversations died mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Every head turned toward the entrance. A woman stumbled inside, clearly fighting the cold. Snow clung to her coat and tangled in her dark hair. Her cheeks were bright red, her hands shaking as she brushed herself off, and her mascara was smudged like she'd been wiping tears, or melted snow, from her face. She clutched a small gift bag that looked like it had been crushed and reshaped at least twice. She looked wrecked. She also looked determined. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on Owen. "You're Owen?" she asked, breathless, like she'd run the last mile just to make it here. He stood so fast his bar stool scraped loudly against the floor. "Yeah," he said, "I am." Relief washed over her face so clearly it almost hurt to see. "I'm Autumn," she said quickly. "I'm so sorry I'm late. My car died on the highway, my phone battery was hanging on by a thread, and I swear I tried everything to get here faster." She let out a shaky laugh. "I know this is the worst first impression in history." Owen stared at her, words completely failing him. Snow melted onto the floor around her boots, leaving small puddles like proof that she hadn't imagined the storm. You still came?" he finally managed. Autumn nodded. "I promised I would." That simple sentence landed harder than anything she could have said. She held out the crushed gift bag. "I didn't want to show up empty-handed," she said, embarrassed. "It's dumb, but yeah." Owen carefully opened it. Inside was a small silver compass ornament, cool against his palm. 3 words were engraved on the back: "Find your way home." His throat closed instantly. "My wife used to say that," he said quietly, almost to himself. Autumn's expression softened. Then maybe it wasn't dumb after all. The truth spilled out fast after that. The mix-up, the wrong woman, the mutual awkwardness. Instead of getting offended, Autumn laughed, really laughed, despite the fact that she was soaked, freezing, and clearly exhausted. "So you accidentally had a therapy session with a restaurant manager," she said. "Honestly, could have been worse." He offered her his coat. She tried to refuse. He insisted. She finally gave in, teeth chattering. They moved to a quiet booth in the corner. Owen ordered hot chocolate for her without asking. It felt instinctive, like something he'd done 100 times before. As warmth slowly returned to her hands, Autumn told him about her life. About working night shifts as an ER nurse. About raising her 14-year-old sister, Lily, on her own since their mom passed away 2 years earlier. "She's the reason I came," Autumn admitted. "She practically shoved me out the door and said, 'You don't get to give up just because you're scared.'" Owen felt that in his bones. "I know that feeling," he said. "My daughter does the same thing to me." They talked until the staff started stacking chairs and dimming lights. No rushing, no pretending. Just 2 people trading stories about loss, responsibility, and how hard it was to keep showing up when quitting felt easier. Outside, the snow had softened, falling quietly now. Autumn hesitated before getting into her Uber. "Thank you for waiting," she said, "even when you didn't know who you were waiting for." Owen watched the car disappear into the snow, his heart doing something unfamiliar. Hope. But neither of them knew yet that Christmas was about to test that hope in ways neither could imagine. What happens when 2 people who secretly dread Christmas start to wonder if maybe, just maybe, it doesn't have to hurt forever? The days after that night slipped by in a way Owen wasn't prepared for. Coffee turned into lunch. Lunch turned into long walks where neither of them checked the time, and conversations stretched until the cold forced them back inside. It felt unreal, like stepping into someone else's life for a few hours at a time. Autumn had this way of listening that made Owen forget he was supposed to hold things back. She didn't rush him, didn't try to fix anything. She just let him talk. About Maddie. About the house that still had Claire's favorite mug in the cabinet because he couldn't bring himself to move it. About how December 23rd, the anniversary, felt like a brick wall he ran into every year. Autumn shared her own pieces, too. Late nights in the ER. The way Lily pretended to be tougher than she was. How Christmas after their mom died felt fake and forced, like everyone expected them to be fine because time had passed. Time doesn't actually heal anything, Autumn said one afternoon as they sat in a quiet coffee shop. It just teaches you how to live around the pain. Owen nodded. Yeah, that sounds about right. December 23rd crept closer faster than he wanted. The familiar tightness settled into his chest, heavy and unrelenting. That morning, Owen stood in his kitchen staring at Maddie's reindeer costume hanging over a chair. Her school Christmas pageant was that evening. Normally, he went alone, sat in the back, clapped when he was supposed to. He picked up his phone and typed out a message to Autumn, then deleted it. Typed again, deleted again. I don't think I can do tonight. Before he could send anything, his phone buzzed. Autumn, I know today's hard. Lily and I are still coming if that's okay. You don't have to be strong for us. Owen stared at the screen, throat tight. She hadn't waited for him to ask. She'd just shown up. The school auditorium was packed with parents, grandparents, and phones held up to record shaky videos. Owen felt like he was underwater, sounds muffled, lights too bright. Then Autumn slid into the seat beside him, Lily following with the universal teenage expression of mild annoyance. You good? Autumn whispered. Owen nodded, even though he wasn't. When Maddie stepped onto the stage in her reindeer costume, everything shifted. She scanned the crowd, spotted Owen, and then her eyes landed on Autumn. Her whole face lit up. She waved so hard she nearly knocked into the kid next to her. Lily snorted. Wow, your kid's adorable. That's annoying. After the show, Maddie launched herself into Owen's arms, then immediately turned to Autumn. You came. Daddy said you might, but I wasn't sure. Autumn knelt down. I promised, she said, and you were the best reindeer up there. Maddie beamed. Something small but powerful shifted in Owen's chest. Watching Autumn with his daughter, easy, natural, unforced, felt dangerous and comforting both at the same time. They ended the night at a tiny cafe that specialized in candy cane hot chocolate. Maddie and Lily sat together, whispering and giggling over something on Lily's phone like they'd known each other for years instead of minutes. Owen watched them from across the room. She doesn't do strangers, he said quietly. If Maddie likes you, that's it. You're in for life. Autumn smiled. Guess I should be scared. But she didn't look scared, she looked steady. Outside, snow fell softly again. Not violent, not angry, just quiet. For the first time in 4 years, December 23rd ended without Owen completely falling apart. And that was the moment he realized how much he stood to lose if this disappeared. What if the first Christmas that didn't completely break you was the one you never planned to share? Owen hadn't invited anyone over on Christmas Eve since Claire died. Not friends, not family, not even Travis. Christmas Eve had become a quiet, controlled thing. Just him and Maddie, take-out pizza, and pretending the silence didn't feel so loud. It was easier that way, safer. So when the words slipped out of his mouth, "Do you want to come over tomorrow night?" he surprised even himself. Autumn blinked. Tomorrow as in Christmas Eve. Yeah, Owen said, suddenly aware of how big that sounded. No pressure, I just thought Maddie really likes you, and Lily, and I don't know, it might be nice. Autumn didn't answer right away. She glanced out the cafe window where snow dusted the sidewalks, then back at him. I'd like that, she said softly. A lot. Christmas Eve arrived wrapped in nerves. Owen spent the afternoon cleaning like someone was coming to inspect his entire life. He moved shoes into closets, wiped down already clean counters, and stood frozen in the living room staring at the Christmas tree. Claire had picked it out years ago. He'd almost skipped it this year. Maddie hadn't let him. "They'll come," Maddie said confidently, sitting cross-legged on the floor. "Santa told me." At 6 sharp, a knock sounded at the door. Autumn stood there holding a tin of cookies, snow dusting her hair. Lily hovered behind her, hands shoved deep into her hoodie pockets, wearing an expression that screamed, "I am too cool for this." "These are stress cookies," Lily said flatly. "I baked them at 2 in the morning." Maddie's eyes widened. "You bake when you're stressed too? We should be best friends." And just like that, the house felt alive. They decorated gingerbread houses at the kitchen table. Maddie used more frosting on herself than on the house. Lily pretended not to care, then quietly added extra candy when she thought no one was looking. Autumn stood beside Owen, bumping his shoulder lightly. "This is nice," she said. "Like, really nice." Owen had to look away. After the girls fell asleep, Maddie in her bed, Lily passed out on the couch. They sat by the Christmas tree, lights glowing soft and gold. The house was quiet but not empty. "I haven't felt this safe at Christmas in a long time," Autumn said. Owen swallowed. "For days ago, I was ready to skip it completely." They leaned closer, almost kissed, almost. Christmas morning was chaos in the best way. Maddie woke everyone at 6 a.m. screaming that Santa had come. Wrapping paper flew. Laughter filled the room. For a few precious hours, Owen forgot to brace himself. Then, 2 days later, reality came calling. Autumn's phone rang while they were standing in the kitchen, dishes half done. She answered, listened, and went completely still. When she hung up, her face had gone pale. "Phoenix," she said quietly. "They offered me a position, better pay, full benefits." Enough to finally breathe. Owen felt the floor tilt. "My sister needs this," Autumn continued, voice shaking. "College isn't cheap, and we're barely scraping by." The words made sense, every single one of them. That didn't make them hurt any less. Because sometimes the miracle doesn't end with Christmas. Sometimes it asks you to choose what you're willing to lose. Have you ever had to walk away from something you love? Not because you wanted to, but because you felt like you had no other choice. They didn't break up right away. That was the cruelest part. For a few days after the call, Autumn and Owen existed in a strange, fragile bubble. They still texted, still met for coffee, still laughed at stupid jokes. But every moment carried the weight of what was coming, like a storm cloud that refused to move. They avoided talking about Phoenix at first, both pretending that if they didn't say it out loud, it might somehow disappear. But reality doesn't work like that. They met again at North Ridge Grill, the same place where everything had started. The Christmas decorations were already coming down, garlands half removed, lights dimmed. It felt symbolic in a way Owen didn't like. Autumn stared down at her plate, barely touching her food. "I leave in 2 weeks," she said finally. "I didn't want to tell you like this, but I don't know how else to say it." Owen's chest tightened. "Phoenix is far," he said, stating the obvious because he didn't trust his voice to say anything else. "Across the country," Autumn agreed. "I know." Silence stretched between them, thick and painful. "What about us?" Owen asked quietly. Autumn's eyes filled instantly. "I don't know how to choose you without failing my sister," she said. "Lily comes first. She always has." He nodded, even though every part of him wanted to fight that answer. "And Maddie comes first for me," he said. "I get it." That didn't make it hurt less. They stood in the parking lot afterward, snow falling lightly like it didn't know it was ruining everything. Autumn cried openly now, shoulders shaking. "I hate this," she whispered. "We just found each other." "I know," Owen said, voice breaking. "I finally stopped feeling like I was drowning." They hugged for a long time, not the kind of hug you give someone you're going to see tomorrow. The kind you give someone you're not sure you'll ever see again. The next 2 weeks were torture. Maddie asked about Autumn every day. When's she coming over again? Is Lily busy? Did I do something wrong? Each question felt like a knife. No, sweetheart, Owen said every time. You didn't do anything wrong. But he didn't know how to explain the rest. Autumn stopped texting as often, not because she didn't care, but because it hurt too much. Lily tried to act normal, but Owen could see the strain every time he ran into them. Then January brought the storm. It came fast and furious, one of the worst blizzards in years. Roads shut down, schools closed. Owen was at work when his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Mr. Parker," a voice said urgently. "This is the school. Maddie's bus broke down on the mountain pass. The kids are safe, but they're stranded." Owen's world stopped. He ran to his truck, hands shaking, heart pounding so hard it hurt. He turned the key, nothing. The engine clicked uselessly. Panic swallowed him whole. He called emergency services. The wait time was hours. Everyone was stuck. Snow fell harder. Owen leaned against his truck, fighting to breathe. It felt too familiar, too close to that night 4 years ago. His hands shook as he pulled out his phone. He hesitated. Then he typed the one message he never thought he'd send. "Maddie's bus is stranded. I can't get to her. I don't know what to do." He hit send. 3 minutes later, Autumn replied with 6 words that changed everything. What if the moment that scared you the most was the same one that showed you who would never walk away? Autumn's reply came through just 3 minutes later. "I'm on my way. Don't argue." Owen stared at the screen, snow blowing sideways around him, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might crack his ribs. He typed back fast. "The roads are closed. It's dangerous." Her response was instant. "I work in emergencies." This is one. He didn't argue again. 45 minutes later felt like a lifetime. Owen paced the edge of the parking lot, calling the school, calling the bus driver, calling anyone who might have an update. The kids were safe, they kept saying. They were cold, scared, but safe. Safe wasn't enough. Headlights finally cut through the white wall of snow. An SUV pulled up, tires crunching hard. Autumn jumped out before the engine even shut off, bundled in a heavy coat, hair tied back, eyes fierce. "I knew where the bus was," she said, already moving. "I helped reroute an ambulance earlier. I can get us there." Owen didn't stop her. He climbed in. The drive was brutal. Wind rocked the car. Snow swallowed the road markings. Autumn gripped the wheel like she was holding the world together by force alone. "I'm not losing another family," she said through clenched teeth. "Not tonight." They reached the bus just as emergency crews were setting up flares. The kids were huddled inside, wrapped in coats and blankets. Maddie burst into tears the second she saw Owen. "Daddy!" He ran to her, scooping her up, holding her so tight she squeaked. "I've got you," he whispered over and over. "I've got you." Autumn knelt beside Lily, checking her hands, her face slipping into calm nurse mode like breathing. "You okay, kiddo?" Lily nodded shakily. "You came back," she said. "Always," Autumn replied. The kids were transported safely down the mountain by emergency crews. No injuries, just fear and exhaustion. Later, inside the warm cab of the truck, Owen finally looked at Autumn. "You didn't have to do this," he said. "Yes, I did," she replied. "Because this," she gestured vaguely between them, "isn't something you walk away from just because it's hard." Tears filled his eyes. "Phoenix," he said, "your job, Lily's future." Autumn took a deep breath. "I called them back," she said quietly. "I asked if the offer could wait or be remote or delayed." Owen's breath caught. "They said yes," she continued. 6 months trial period here." The world seemed to steady. "I don't know how this ends," Autumn said, "but I know I don't want to miss it." Owen reached for her hand. This time, when he kissed her, there was no hesitation. But choosing each other was only the beginning because life still had one final test waiting. Have you ever noticed how the endings you fear the most sometimes turn into the beginnings you prayed for? Spring arrived quietly, like it didn't want to disturb anything. Snow melted into memory, roads cleared, and life slowly found a new rhythm. Owen didn't rush it. For the first time in years, he wasn't bracing for loss. He was learning how to live in the present. Autumn stayed. 6 months turned into something that felt solid. Real, not rushed, not desperate, just steady. She balanced hospital shifts with school meetings for Lily. Owen adjusted his schedule so Maddie was never the last kid waiting at pickup. They learned each other's routines, flaws, and all. It wasn't perfect. There were late nights when Autumn came home exhausted and quiet. There were mornings when Owen woke up panicked from dreams that pulled him back to that icy road 4 years ago. But now, when those moments hit, he didn't handle them alone. One evening in early December, Owen found Maddie and Lily at the kitchen table, heads bent together, whispering like they were planning something illegal. "What are you two plotting?" he asked. "Nothing," Maddie said way too fast. Lily smirked. "Relax, Dad, too. We're just helping Santa." Autumn laughed from the doorway. "I wouldn't ask follow-up questions if I were you." Christmas crept closer, but this time Owen noticed something different. His chest didn't tighten. The date on the calendar didn't feel like a countdown to pain. Instead, it felt like anticipation. On December 23rd, Owen stood in the living room staring at the Christmas tree again. The same one. The same ornaments, including the silver compass. Find your way home, he touched it gently. "Claire," he whispered, not with sadness but gratitude. "We're okay." Christmas morning arrived wrapped in laughter. Maddie barreled down the stairs like a rocket. Lily followed, pretending not to be excited and failing badly. Autumn watched from the couch, coffee in hand, eyes shining. After the chaos settled, Maddie disappeared upstairs and returned holding a small envelope. "This is for you," she said, handing it to Autumn. "From both of us." Inside was a photo Maddie had drawn, 4 stick figures holding hands beneath a Christmas tree. On the back, in careful handwriting, were the words, "Thank you for staying." Autumn covered her mouth, tears spilling freely. Owen stood and reached into his pocket, heart racing. "Actually, I have something too." He knelt. The room went silent. "Autumn," he said, voice shaking but sure, "I don't want to be brave alone anymore. I don't want to survive Christmas. I want to live it with you, with our girls." She laughed through tears. "Are you asking me what I think you're asking me?" "Yes," he said. "No pressure, but yeah." She didn't hesitate. "Yes," she said. 1,000 times yes." Maddie screamed. Lily groaned. Everyone laughed. Later that night, when the house was quiet again, Owen sat beside Autumn beneath the tree. "I didn't think I'd ever feel like this again," he admitted. Autumn squeezed his hand. "Neither did I outside." Snow began to fall, soft and gentle, but this time it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like home. The end,